Winter can be beautiful, peaceful, a blanket of white that muffles the world and offers a kind of purity you can't find anywhere else. But isolation has a way of revealing things that hide in the silence, waiting for the moment when you're truly alone. This is a story about a winter retreat that became something else entirely, something I still can't explain. I'd always wanted to be a writer, not the kind who churns out blog posts or marketing copy, but someone who could craft real stories, novels that mattered. So when I found myself with 2 weeks of unused vacation time and a manuscript going nowhere, I decided I needed a change of scenery, somewhere quiet, somewhere far from distractions. I found the cabin on a rental site. It was listed as the Snow Haven, a remote A-frame tucked into the Colorado Rockies, 40 miles from the nearest town. The photos showed a cozy interior with a stone fireplace, wide windows overlooking a forest of snow-draped pines, and a deck that promised complete solitude. Perfect. I booked it for 10 days. The drive up was longer than I expected. The paved road gave way to gravel, then to a narrow dirt path barely wide enough for my sedan. Snow was already falling lightly, dusting the windshield, and my GPS lost signal about halfway up the mountain. I followed the printed directions the owner had emailed me, counting mailboxes and landmarks, until I finally spotted the cabin through the trees. It was more isolated than the photos suggested. No neighbors, no power lines visible, just the cabin, the forest, and miles of untouched snow. I parked, grabbed my bags, and unlocked the door with the key I'd picked up from a lockbox. Inside, it was exactly as advertised. Warm wood paneling, a fully stocked kitchen, a loft bedroom with a skylight. I built a fire, unpacked my laptop, and settled in. The silence was profound. No traffic, no voices, no hum of modern life. Just the crackle of burning wood and the occasional creak of the cabin settling. It was perfect. The first night, I slept like the dead. Exhaustion from the drive and the altitude knocked me out the moment my head hit the pillow. But sometime in the early hours, I woke to a sound, a soft, rhythmic scratching against the bedroom window. My first thought was branches. The wind must have picked up. I rolled over and tried to ignore it, but it continued, steady, deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I sat up, listening. The sound moved slightly, like whatever was making it was shifting position. I turned on the bedside lamp and approached the window. The curtains were drawn. I hesitated, then pulled them back. Snow. Just darkness and animal. Maybe a branch I hadn't noticed in the dark. I went back to bed, but sleep didn't come easy. The next morning, I inspected the exterior of the cabin. The snow around the foundation was pristine except for my own footprints leading from the car to the front door. I walked around to the bedroom window and looked up. No branches. The nearest tree was at least 10 feet away, and its limbs didn't reach anywhere close to the house. I stood there for a moment, staring at the glass, trying to rationalize what I'd heard. Maybe it was the house settling. Old cabins made all kinds of noises. I spent the day writing, making real progress for the first time in months. The isolation was working. No emails, no phone calls, no distractions. Just me and the story. By evening, I was feeling good. I made dinner, poured a glass of wine, and watched the snow fall through the living room windows. It was coming down heavier now, accumulating fast. That earned. This time, I was ready. I'd left the lamp on, and the moment I heard it, I was out of bed and at the window. I ripped the curtains open. Nothing. But the sound didn't stop. It moved. From the bedroom window to the one in the hallway, then to the living room. Slowly, methodically, like something was circling the cabin. My heart was pounding. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and went to the front door. I didn't open it, I wasn't that stupid, but I peered through the peephole. The porch was empty. I moved to the living room window and shone the flashlight outside. That's when I saw them. Cleanliness. In the snow. Bare, human footprints. They circled the cabin, stopping beneath every window. I traced them with the flashlight beam, around the side of the house, past the deck, back toward the bedroom. Whoever had made them had walked the entire perimeter. But here's the thing that made my stomach drop. The prints didn't lead away, they just stopped. Right at the edge of the tree line, facing the cabin. I backed away from the window, my hands shaking. I tried my phone. No signal. I'd known that coming in, but now it felt like a mistake. The landline the owner had mentioned was in the kitchen. I picked up the receiver. Dead. Completely dead. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up, staring at the walls and the ceiling until the living room with the fireplace roaring, every light in the cabin on, gripping a kitchen knife like it would do me any good. The scratching came and went, sometimes at the windows, sometimes at the door. Always moving, always circling. By dawn, it stopped. While the sun was snow had piled up overnight, at least 8 inches of fresh powder. But what I saw made my blood run cold. There weren't just a few footprints anymore. There were dozens, trails crisscrossing the clearing, all converging on the cabin, all stopping at the windows and doors, none leading away. It was like a crowd of people had surrounded the house, pressing their faces to the glass, watching me. I packed my bags in a frenzy. I didn't care about the writing, the retreat, any of it. I just wanted out. But when I opened the front door to load the car, I stopped. The snow had been cleared, a perfect, deliberate path from the front steps to the tree line. Not shoveled, brushed away by hand, the snow piled in neat rows on either side. And in the center of that path, written in disturbed snow, were 2 words. Thank you for staying. What had left the message? I threw my bags in the car, started the engine, and drove. I didn't stop until I hit the main highway, my hands white-knuckled on the wheel, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I'd even call the owner to explain. I just left. But sometimes, late at night, when the snow is falling and the world is quiet, I hear it again, that soft, rhythmic scratching. And I wonder if whatever was at that cabin followed me home. Meant for people. Some places have their own inhabitants, their own rules. And when you intrude, when you step into their world, they notice. If you ever find yourself alone in the winter woods, in a cabin far from help, pay attention to the sounds. Because you might not be as alone as you think.
Traditions tie us to the people we've lost. They keep memories alive, give us a way to honor those who came before. But some traditions carry more weight than we realize, and some places remember more than they should. This is a story about a frozen lake, a family ritual, and the moment I learned that not all legacies are meant to be continued. My grandfather was a man of few words, but every January, without fail, he'd take me ice fishing on Lake Winnipeg. We'd drive out before sunrise, haul our gear across the frozen expanse, and spend the day in companionable silence, waiting for the fish to bite. He taught me how to drill the holes, how to read the ice, how to sit still and let the cold sharpen your focus. Those were some of the best days of my life. When he passed away 3 years ago, I felt unmoored. He'd been the steady constant in my life, and his absence left a hole I didn't know how to fill. So I kept the tradition going. Every January, I'd make the trip to Lake Winnipeg, set up in the same spot he always chose, and fish alone. It wasn't the same without him, but it felt important, like I was keeping a part of him alive. This year, I arrived earlier than usual. The sun hadn't broken the horizon yet, and the lake was a vast sheet of blue-gray ice stretching out under the dim pre-dawn light. The air was brutally cold, the kind that makes your lungs ache with every breath. I parked near the access point, loaded my sled with gear, and started the trek out to our spot. About 50 yards away, I noticed another ice shanty already set up. That was unusual. Most fishermen respected spacing. You didn't crowd someone else's territory. But I figured maybe they didn't know the unspoken rules. I kept walking, found my usual spot, and started drilling. The ice was thick, over 2 feet, and the auger bit through slowly, spitting up chips of frozen water. I set up my portable shelter, a small tent just big enough for me and my gear, and arranged my equipment. Heater, rod, tackle box, thermos of coffee. Everything in its place. I glanced over at the other shanty. Still no movement. No smoke rising from a heater vent. No one coming or going. I checked my watch. It was past 8. If someone had set up that early, they should have been inside by now. Hours passed. I caught a few small perch, nothing worth keeping. The sun climbed higher, but the cold didn't ease. I kept glancing at the other shanty. It bothered me more than it should have. Why set up a shelter and then not use it? Around noon, curiosity got the better of me. I stood, stretched my stiff legs, and walked over. "Hey," I called out as I approached. "Anyone in there?" No response. I knocked on the frame of the shelter. The fabric rattled in the wind, but no one answered. I hesitated, then unzipped the entrance and looked inside. Flames. Empty. Completely, utterly empty. No gear, no heater, no holes drilled in the ice. Just an empty shanty sitting on the frozen lake. I frowned, stepping inside. Why would someone set up an empty shelter? That's when I noticed the ice beneath my feet. It was crystal clear. Normally, lake ice is cloudy, full of trapped air bubbles and sediment. But this was different. I could see straight down into the water below. And what I saw made my breath catch. A man, suspended in the water maybe 20 feet below the surface. He was dressed in old-fashioned fishing gear, heavy wool coat, rubber boots, a fur-lined hat. His arms floated at his sides, his legs hung limp. And his eyes were wide open, staring straight up at me. I stumbled backward, my heart hammering. This wasn't possible. Bodies don't stay suspended like that. They sink or they float. They don't just hover. I scrambled out of the shanty and stood there, breathing hard, trying to process what I'd seen. My mind raced. Should I call someone? The authorities? But what would I even say, and how would they find the body in a lake this size? I looked down at the ice beneath my own feet, and that's when I saw more of them. Dozens of them, maybe more, spread out beneath the surface, suspended at different depths, all dressed in fishing gear from different eras. Some in modern coats, some in older clothes, some in outfits I couldn't even place. All staring upward, all perfectly preserved in the frigid water. My legs nearly gave out. I looked around wildly, scanning the ice in every direction. How far did this go? How many were down there? I thought about my grandfather, about the spot he always chose, about the hours we'd spent here, sitting on the ice, fishing in silence. Had he known? Had he seen them? In a blind panic, throwing everything onto the sled without bothering to organize it. I didn't care about tradition, about honoring his memory, about any of it. I just needed to get off that lake. As I dragged my sled back toward shore, I couldn't stop looking down at the ice beneath my boots. Every few steps, I'd catch a glimpse of another figure in the water below, watching, waiting. I haven't been back since. I sold my gear, stopped checking the fishing reports, stopped thinking about those January mornings. But I can't stop dreaming about them. In the dreams, I'm standing on the ice, looking down, and my grandfather is there, suspended in the water, staring up at me with those wide, unblinking eyes. And he's smiling, like he's been waiting for me, like he knew I'd come back eventually. I don't know what's under that ice. I don't know why they're there or how long they've been waiting. But I know one thing for certain. I'm never going back to Lake Winnipeg. Some traditions aren't worth keeping. The places we return to, the rituals we uphold, they shape us. But sometimes they're not ours to keep. Sometimes they belong to something older, something that's been waiting beneath the surface, watching for the next person to arrive. If you ever find yourself on the frozen lake, alone with your thoughts, take a moment to look down. You might not like what looks back. There's a particular kind of vulnerability that comes with driving through a storm. You're alone in a metal shell, surrounded by forces you can't control, dependent on your own reflexes and luck. Most of the time, you make it through. But every now and then, something happens that makes you realize how fragile that sense of safety really is. This is a story about a blizzard, a pair of headlights, and the moment I understood that not everyone on the road wants to help you. I'd spent the weekend at a friend's cabin near Breckenridge, skiing and drinking and forgetting about work for a few blissful days. Sunday afternoon, I loaded up my car and started the drive home to Denver. The forecast had called for snow, but nothing severe, just a few inches, typical for February. I figured I'd be fine. About an hour into the drive, the snow started. Light at first, just flurries dancing across the windshield. But within 20 minutes, it had escalated into a full blizzard. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. I slowed to a crawl, gripping the wheel, my headlights barely cutting through the white curtain in front of me. Most people had the sense to wait out the storm or take a different route. I should have done the same, but I was stubborn and I didn't want to lose another day. I kept going, inching forward, my wipers working overtime. That's when I saw the headlights behind me. They appeared suddenly, blazing through the snow, way too close. I checked my rearview mirror, squinting against the glare. A large vehicle, SUV or truck, I couldn't tell, was riding my bumper, its high beams on, blinding me. Brakes, a gentle warning, back off. They didn't. I tried speeding up, pushing my sedan faster than was safe in these conditions. The vehicle matched my pace, staying glued to my bumper. I slowed down again, thinking maybe they'd pass. They slowed down too. My chest tightened. This wasn't normal. No one drives like that unless they're trying to intimidate you. I reached for my phone, hoping for a signal, but the screen showed nothing. No bars, no connection. I was on my own. The vehicle stayed behind me for miles, never passing, never falling back, just maintaining that uncomfortably close distance. My hands were cramping from gripping the wheel so hard. My heart was pounding. I kept glancing in the mirror, trying to see the driver, but the headlights were too bright. Then I saw a side road up ahead, a narrow turnoff barely visible through the snow. I made a split-second decision. Without signaling, I cranked the wheel and took the turn, hoping to lose them. They followed. "Jesus Christ," I muttered, my voice shaking. The side road was worse than the highway, narrower, less maintained, snow piling up in drifts across the pavement. My tires slipped and I fought to keep control. The headlights stayed right behind me. My headlights caught a reflective yellow sign ahead. Road closed. No outlet. No. But it was too late. I was committed. The road narrowed further, trees pressing in on both sides, branches heavy with snow reaching toward the car like skeletal fingers. The vehicle behind me stayed close, relentless. I didn't know what else to do. I kept driving, praying for some kind of turnaround, some way out of this. The road twisted and curved, climbing slightly, then leveling out. And then, abruptly, it ended. A frozen lake stretched out before me, vast and white, disappearing into the storm. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop just short of the ice. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. Hezbollah looked in the mirror.
The vehicle had stopped about 20 feet behind me, still running, headlights blazing. We sat there for a moment, two cars at a dead end in the middle of a blizzard. My mind raced. What did they want? Were they going to get out? Should I run? Civilized. Then, without warning, the headlights turned off. The sudden darkness was disorienting. I couldn't see anything but swirling snow and the faint outline of trees. I strained to see the vehicle, to see if anyone was moving, but the storm swallowed everything. I sat there, frozen, my hand hovering over the door lock. Seconds stretched into minutes. Nothing. No movement. No sound except the wind and the tick of my engine. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I put the car in reverse, turned on my high beams, and slowly backed up, ready to swing around and get the hell out of there. That's when I saw it. The vehicle was parked horizontally across the road, blocking my exit. A dark SUV, coated in snow, but the driver's side door was open. So was the passenger's side, both doors hanging wide, snow piling up inside. No one was there. I stared, my breath fogging the windshield. Where had they gone? I scanned the tree line, the road, the lake. Nothing, just emptiness. Then I saw the footprints, sets, leading away from the SUV into the trees, not walking casually, running, heading in my direction, looping around through the woods, fresh prints filling slowly with snow. They were circling me. I floored the gas, reversing hard, tires spinning on the snow. The car fishtailed, and I cranked the wheel, trying to maneuver around the SUV. There wasn't enough room. I scraped the side of my car against a tree, metal screeching, but I didn't care. I just needed out. I finally got clear, pointed the car back down the SUV with the freshtlader, put expect the car, then the trees are guessed no. Moving to again, the vehicle blang. I finally got clear, moving to the back. I wobbly see that trained in my back, but I started to be moving. I finally got clear, pointed the car back down the SUV, pointed the trees. The car premised then. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving. I finally got clear, pointed the car, moving to the back. I servanted the car back down the SUV, but I started to be moving, the person the trees, the car spinning up the woods. The car premised then. Moving to a plaid, contributed the trees, fresh as well. I seened the car, pointed the car, pointed the car. I finally got clear, pointed the car, moving, pointed the car, moving. My stranger metal through, the car spinning up the woods, but I didn't care. I stringed the groan. I finally got clear, metal premised the trees, pointed the car, pointed the trees. I finally got clear, pointed the car, moving, premised then, metal premised the trees. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving to the back, premised then, moving. The car spinning up the woods. I stranger metal through, premised then. Metal premised the trees, premised then. Metal premised the trees. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving to the back. I stringed the car, moving. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving. I seened the car, pointed the trees, premised then. Metal premised the trees. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving. Metal premised the trees. I seened the car, pointed the car. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving. Premised then. Metal premised the trees. I seened the car, pointed the car, moving. Metal premised the trees. Premised then. My seemed the car pointed the car moving. 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 What woods pointed the car back down the road and drove. Fast. Too fast. The car slipped and slid, but I didn't let off the gas. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting to see them, whoever they were, chasing me. But the road stayed empty. Minutes to get back to the highway, and by the time I did, I was shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. I pulled over at the first gas station I saw, stumbled inside, and asked the attendant to call the police. They
sent a patrol car to check the side road. They found the SUV, doors still open, engine still running, but no footprints. The snow had covered them. No one ever came forward to claim the vehicle. No missing persons reports matched the description. The police filed it as abandoned, and that was it. I still don't know who was driving that SUV. I don't know why they followed me, why they blocked the road, why they ran into the woods. And I don't know what they were planning to do if they'd caught me. But I think about it every time it snows, every time I'm alone on the road. And I wonder if they're still out there, waiting for the next person to take that side road. Not every danger announces itself. Sometimes it follows silently, patiently, waiting for the right moment. The roads we travel aren't always as empty as they seem, and the people we share them with aren't always people at all.
Nature is indifferent. It doesn't care if you're prepared, if you're experienced, if you know what you're doing. It simply exists, and if you make a mistake, it will punish you without hesitation. But sometimes what happens out there in the wilderness isn't indifference. Sometimes it's something deliberate, something that knows you're there and wants you to know it's watching. This is a story about a winter hike that became something far worse. Before hiking for years, spring, summer, fall, winter, I love it all. There's something about being out in the wilderness, alone with your thoughts, that clears your head in a way nothing else can. I'm careful, though. I plan my routes, check the weather, carry the right gear. I'm not reckless. So when I heard about a winter trail in the White Mountains that supposedly offered incredible views but was rarely traveled after December, I was intrigued. The reviews online were sparse but glowing. People talked about the solitude, the pristine snow, the sense of being truly alone in nature. It sounded perfect.
I went on a Saturday in mid-January. The forecast was clear, temperatures in the low 20s, no precipitation expected. I packed my usual gear: water, snacks, extra layers, a headlamp, GPS device, first aid kit. I left early, arriving at the trailhead just after sunrise. The parking lot was empty, not surprising for a winter trail this remote. I signed the logbook at the ranger station, just me and one other name from 2 days earlier. I shouldered my pack and started up the trail. The snow was pristine, untouched, sparkling in the morning light. The trail wound through a dense forest of pines and birches, their branches heavy with snow. It was absolutely silent. No birds, no wind, no distant traffic. Just the crunch of my boots on the packed snow and the rhythm of my breathing. About 2 miles in, I noticed footprints ahead of me. Fresh prints, clear and well-defined, following the same path I was on. Someone else was out here. I felt a small surge of camaraderie. Another winter hiker, someone who appreciated the solitude as much as I did. I picked up my pace, curious to catch up, maybe exchange a few words. But the prints stayed ahead of me. No matter how fast I walked, they remained just out of reach, visible around the next bend or over the next rise. I hiked for another hour, and the footprints never got closer, never fell behind. I catch my breath. I looked down at the trail. The footprints ahead of me matched my own boots. Exact same tread pattern, same stride length, same depth in the snow. That's weird. I crouched down, comparing the prints directly. Identical. I looked behind me at the tracks I'd left. Also identical. Of course they were my boots. But how could the prints ahead of me be the same? Withdrawing, I stood uneasy now. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe the things were still the me they don't. Maybe there was someone had the same boots. Or maybe I was mistaken. I kept walking, but the sense of wrongness grew with every step. The footprints stayed ahead of me, always the same distance, always visible, never closer, never farther. I started jogging, my pack bouncing on my back, my breath coming harder. The prints stayed ahead. Stopped. The prints stopped. Stared at the trail ahead, my heart pounding. I was alone. There was no one else here. So what the hell was I following? I turned around, deciding to head back. But when I looked at the trail behind me, my stomach dropped. Photons I'd made, my tracks leading back to the trailhead, were gone. The snow was smooth, undisturbed, as if I'd never walked through it. In their place were older-looking tracks, weathered and wind-blown, heading in a direction I hadn't come from. "What the?" I whispered, my voice sounding too loud in the silence. I pulled out my phone. No signal, expected, but my GPS should have still worked. I opened the app. The screen flickered, showing my location as a blinking dot in the middle of nowhere. Then, the battery icon dropped from 87% to 15% in seconds. Then to 3%. Then, the phone died. No, that's not possible. I'd charged it overnight. It was full this morning. I pulled out my backup GPS device. Dead. Also fully charged this morning. The temperature was dropping. I could feel it. My fingers were going numb, even in my gloves. I checked my watch, only 11 a.m., but the light around me was dimming, shadows lengthening as if the sun was setting. Blockchain clawed at my chest. I started back toward the trailhead, or where I thought the trailhead was, but the trail had changed. It was narrower now, the trees closer, their branches hanging lower, brushing against my shoulders. I didn't remember this. This wasn't right. The footprints were behind me now, following me. I could hear them, the soft crunch of boots on snow matching my pace. I spun around. Nothing, just the trail winding back into the trees. But the prints were there, fresh, bare feet, in the snow. I ran. I didn't care about pace, about conserving energy, about any of it. I just ran, crashing through the underbrush, branches clawing at my jacket, snow kicking up around my legs. The trail twisted and turned, never straightening, never opening up. The trees pressed closer, their trunks dark and twisted, branches reaching like skeletal arms. I could hear the footsteps behind me, faster now, keeping up, bare feet slapping against the snow, impossibly quick. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Blindness. And then, suddenly, I burst out onto a paved road. I stumbled, nearly falling, gasping for air. Cars rushed past. The sun was bright, normal, real. I stood there, bent over, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. I looked back at the tree line. The forest was there, quiet and still. I could see the trail entrance, the packed snow, the trees, and I could see my footprints leading out of the woods. They ended about 20 feet from the road. Just stopped. But beyond them, continuing deeper into the forest, was another set of prints. Bare feet, leading back into the trees. I didn't go back for my car. I called a friend, had them drive up and get it for me. I didn't tell them why, I just said I didn't feel well. I haven't hiked alone since, and I'll never go back to the White Mountains, because I know now that some trails don't end where they're supposed to, and some footprints aren't meant to be followed. The wilderness is vast, and we like to think we understand it. We map it, mark it, name it. But there are places in the woods that belong to something else, something older, something that doesn't want us there. If you ever find yourself on a trail that doesn't feel right, turn back. Don't follow the footprints. And don't assume you're alone. There's a reason places close for the winter. It's not just about the cold or the lack of business. Some places need people. They need noise, warmth, life. And when those things are absent, when the halls are empty and the rooms are dark, something else moves in. This is a story about a job I took one winter, a lodge that should have stayed closed, and the night I learned that some buildings remember the tragedies that happened inside them. I needed money. That's the only reason I took the job. I'd been out of work for 3 months, burning through my savings, and when I saw the posting for a winter caretaker position at Pinewood Lodge, I applied immediately. The pay was generous, too generous maybe, but I didn't ask questions. Pinewood Lodge was a sprawling resort in upstate New York, popular in the summer and fall, but closed from December through March. My job was simple: live on site, keep the heat running, make sure the pipes didn't freeze, and ensure no one broke in. Easy work, isolated, but I didn't mind. I'd have the entire place to myself, free room and board, and nothing but time to read and relax. I arrived on a gray afternoon in early December. The owner met me at the entrance, a wiry man in his 60s with tired eyes. He walked me through the main building, showing me the boiler room, the breaker panel, the storage areas. He pointed out my quarters, a small apartment in the staff wing with a kitchenette and a decent bed. Confiscated, "Don't go into the ballrooms after dark," he said as he handed me the keys. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. "I'm serious," he said. "The heating doesn't work well in that wing. You'll freeze. Stay in the main lodge." "Sure," I said, still not entirely sure if he was messing with me. "No ballrooms after dark. Got it." He left, and I was alone. The first week was fine. I settled into a routine, mornings checking the building, afternoons reading by the fireplace in the main lodge, evenings cooking simple meals in my apartment. The silence was profound, but I didn't mind. I'd always been comfortable being alone. Then I heard the piano. It was faint at first, barely audible over the crackle of the fire, a slow, mournful melody drifting through the building. I looked up from my book, listening. It was coming from somewhere deeper in the lodge, one of the ballrooms maybe. I got up and followed the sound. The main lodge connected to a series of event spaces, ballrooms, conference rooms, banquet halls. I walked through the empty corridors, my footsteps echoing, until I reached the grand ballroom. The doors were closed. I pressed my ear against the wood. The music stopped. I opened the door. The ballroom was massive, with high ceilings, chandeliers draped in cloth, and a stage at the far end. In the center of the stage was a grand piano, its surface covered in a thin layer of dust. No one was there. I walked over to the piano and lifted the cover. The keys were dusty, untouched. Ran my finger along them, leaving a trail. I looked around the empty room, feeling uneasy. Maybe it was the wind. Old buildings made strange noises. I went back to the lodge and tried to forget about it. But the music came back, night after night, always around the same time, always the same slow, sad melody. I'd go to investigate, and it would stop the moment I got close. The piano was always covered, always dusty, always undisturbed. On the fifth night, I decided to wait. I went to the ballroom before the music started, pulled up a chair in the shadows, and sat in silence. I wanted to see what was happening, wanted proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Around 2 a.m., the keys began to move. I watched, frozen in place, as the piano played itself. No hands, no visible force, just the keys pressing down, one by one, creating that mournful melody. My breath caught, my heart pounded. I stood, my flashlight shaking in my hand, and approached the piano. The music stopped. The keys went still. Flattened. The temperature dropped. It was sudden and severe, like stepping into a freezer. My breath fogged in front of me. I could see it in the beam of my flashlight, thick clouds of condensation. Then I heard it. A child's laughter. Soft, distant, coming from the hallway. I spun around, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "Hello?" I called, my voice cracking. The laughter moved, echoing through the corridors. I followed, my legs moving almost on their own. It led me deeper into the lodge, past the ballrooms, into the old staff quarters. Rooms I hadn't explored yet, rooms that hadn't been used in years. I found her in the corner of a small, dusty room. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing with her face to the wall. She was wearing an old-fashioned dress, the kind you'd see in photos from the 1940s. Her hair was long and dark, plastered wetly against her head. Water dripped from her clothes, pooling on the floor around her bare feet. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't respond. I stepped closer, the flashlight beam trembling. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" Slowly, she turned around. Washed, her face was blue. Her lips were pale. Her eyes were white, no pupils, no iris, just empty, white orbs staring at me. She smiled, her mouth stretching too wide, and whispered, "We've been waiting for you." I staggered backward, my flashlight falling from my hand and clattering to the floor. The beam spun wildly, casting shadows across the room. That's when I saw the walls. They were covered in handprints, small handprints like children's, pressed into the plaster. Dozens of them, hundreds, all wet, all frozen, the condensation crystallizing in the cold air. The girl stepped toward me, her bare feet leaving wet prints on the floor. Behind her, I saw movement in the shadows, more shapes, more children, all soaking wet, all staring at me with those empty, white eyes. I ran. I didn't stop to grab my things, didn't stop to think. I just ran through the lodge, crashing through doors, stumbling over furniture, the laughter echoing behind me. I made it to the front entrance, threw open the doors, and ran into the snow. I called the owner from my car, told him I quit, told him he could keep the pay, I didn't care. Phosphate, he didn't sound surprised. I found out later that Pinewood Lodge had been the site of a tragedy in 1947. A school group had been staying there during a winter retreat when the lake behind the property gave way. 15 children drowned. They recovered the bodies, held a memorial, and the lodge reopened the following year. But every winter when the lodge closed and the halls went quiet, people reported hearing music, laughter, wet footprints appearing on the floors. No one stays there anymore. They can't keep caretakers for more than a few days. I don't know what those children want. I don't know why they're still there. But I know one thing. I'll never set foot in Pinewood Lodge again. Some places hold on to the past. They preserve it, replay it, trap it in their walls and floors. And when you're alone, when the world goes quiet, that past comes forward. If you ever take a job that seems too good to be true, in a place that's too quiet, too empty, ask yourself why no one else wanted it. Because chances are, you're not the first person to run.